Religious people are totally clueless about sex. They have a bunch of rules that are very old fashioned and they don't understand the reality now. They don't get that sex is about fun, pleasure, and freedom, but instead they only see it as something sinful, whatever that means. Especially with Christians. And within Christians, the Catholic Church, they have just too many rules for everything. And all this with the intention of like brainwash you so you can do things for their benefit. Look at all the power that they have. If they didn't exist, people would be just better off in every aspect, right? This is what I used to think back when I used to be an atheist from Reddit, and I couldn't be more wrong. Nowadays, within secularism, people or organizations have tried to tell you that that is what the church thinks. That sex is something sinful and bad, and they have a bunch of boring rules. But what if I tell you that the practices within Christianity can actually lead you to a way better sex life than what any other secular person is ever going to experience? That's why today I want to explain to you how Christian sexual ethics can lead you to a better sex life. First of all, if you don't know me, my name is Jesus Noya. I'm a Venezuelan sex coach with the goal of helping men to last longer in bed, become sexually dominant, and be more attractive. All this while avoiding the deadly mistakes that I made during my sex life. This comes from my years of experience dating in South America and all the struggles that I had to go through, like premature ejaculation, performance anxiety, and non-existent sexual confidence. Before going into the specific practices, I want to tell you something, and that is that I wasn't religious for actually a big part of my life, which is very ironic because my name is Jesus. When I was getting into my teens, religion used to bother me a lot because I just saw this as this way to brainwash people. If you don't do what I say, you go into hell. And when I tried to ask why, they wouldn't explain that to me in a good way. So it wasn't making sense at all. Instead, when I was looking at the liberal point of views and that perspective, that would make way more sense. That's how I ended up going into full atheism. And it was mainly because of ignorance, because now that I see it, I was believing things like the Bible was a fiction book, or that the Catholic Church was like an evil organization trying to brainwash people and they had too much power. That kind of BS. Growing up, I started to realize that this wasn't true and that there was a lot of things that I didn't know. That's why I ended up stepping into agnosticism. That is like believing that there's probably a God, but you're not sure. I mean, it could be a God, or there's a probability that couldn't exist. And that was way more comfortable for me because I could still have my liberal views and do whatever I want without having to worry about answering deep questions. So that was my main way of thinking. And here is where the problem starts. The first point that I want to explain to you is how terrible the liberal views of sex are. When I speak about liberal sex, I'm talking about how liberalism see sex. Part of the doctrines of liberalism is focusing mainly on freedom, human rights, and equality. They see mainly religion and other ways of thinking as a way to control people. And that may sound attractive for some people because it speaks about a little bit of a human ideal, but in reality is very different. This is because they take the spiritual factor from sex and they replace it with something more ambiguous that they call freedom or love that is up to individual interpretation. And the problem is that when it's up to individual interpretation, everyone can do a mess with it. If that's the only standard that we have for sex, then we can practice it in basically whatever way. It can be with as much people as we want to at the same time or in separate times. We could practice it to open relationships or with casual sex where there's no love at all involved and only pleasure and fun. During the 60s was the time when this way of thinking became a whole movement and people started to practice it in society. That's when you see in the hippie times this bunch of orgies and nudity and porn. There's a big increase right there. Before that, it basically didn't even exist. The people who practice us like that at the beginning actually find it very fun until they start to experience the consequences like me. I thought at the beginning of my sex life that that was the ideal way of seeing sex. Actually, one of my first sexual relationships was a little bit more of this open relationship where I was with the girl, but she could be with other guys and I could be with other girls as well. And it seemed like a very fun game. I had casual sex from time to time with other girls, would have sex with friends, and it wasn't that much of a thing. Until I started to realize that my life was getting miserable. I enjoy sex, yes, but at the end, I will feel like a very bad feeling inside of me. Like I was feeling kind of gross for it. And I didn't even know exactly why. Actually, before having sex, me and a girl got high and she started to say, "This is wrong." I didn't understand what she was saying because we were too high. But years after, and I realized that she knew as well that this wasn't right. Seeing the girl that I ended up falling in love with having sex with other guys like it was nothing ended up destroying me from the inside. And I couldn't say anything about it because if I did, I was going to be toxic or someone that wanted to control her, misogynist, machista, or something similar. Because if this is something good, why do I want to take away her freedom? Why can't I just do the same? Or just let her be? It was a really, really bad time. But thankfully, I ended up going out of that. Not only my sex life was terrible, but I had pretty big problems in other areas of my life as well that I started to fix step by step. I was in debt, I was asleep in the street, I have a very shitty job, my health was terrible, just very bad state of life, right? When I started to do the practices to get out of that, and I saw my life just getting better, and I started to see something funny, and that was that for some reason, I felt myself were more spiritual. I could like feel my soul, if you get what I mean. And when I started to investigate a little bit why this was happening, I realized that a bunch of the practices that we do to feel better with ourselves, to fix or improve our lives, actually are very deep attached to religion, especially to Christianity. Things like meditation, prayer, temperance, discipline, gratitude, charity. A bunch of those things actually come from the official teachings from there. And this realization was shocking. For the first time, I started to realize that a bunch of the rules that they used to have were actually for a good reason. It wasn't just that I was going to go to hell. I was going to experience hell on earth as I was doing if I tried to actively go against those practices. And here comes the second point. Christianity works very close to the concepts of instant gratification and delayed gratification. Instant gratification is basically all the activities that can make you feel good now, but most of the time going to make you feel like crap later. Eating garbage food, making drugs, being lazy, casual sex, porn, and maybe even robbing or scamming people. And delayed gratification is the opposite. Those are things that feel kinda difficult right now, but in the future are going to make you feel great basically 24/7. Virtues like temperance, gratitude, charity, or stillness, they are things that sometimes are very difficult to put in practice day to day. But if you keep doing them for a while, you're going to feel great. And I speak mainly about Catholicism for two reasons. One is that something that I really admire from the Catholic Church is that they put a lot of emphasis in action. Very different from Protestantism and other doctrines. They actually focus on the fact that if you want to be a good Christian, you have to take the actions that can demonstrate in some way your faith. Instead of just saying or believing that you love Jesus and God, because that's kind of vague. As an example, if you're in a marriage, you can say to your woman that you love her, that she's the world for you, that you would do anything for her. That's great, right? Cool day. You may genuinely feel inside of your heart that is like that, but when it comes to a difficult situation, that's when you're gonna see if this is actually true. Let's say that by accident she made something wrong, like she messed up the dinner or something similar. If you go there and beat her, do you really love your wife? What if you go and cheat with an ex-woman? If you go back with her and you say, yeah baby, I did this, but I keep loving you, you're the only thing in my heart, are you actually a good husband? Do you really love her? It's a little bit the same in Catholicism. We actually give a lot of importance to the actions that we do in order to be good Christians. And that's where we have a lot of practices that are important, and they're not made out of nowhere, and for sure, they're not made to brainwash people. The intention of these practices is helping people to live their most fulfilling and happy lives. And it is the same with the practices around sex. Catholicism has two doctrines when it comes to having sex, and that is that sex has to be an expression of communion and love between a man and a woman, and that it has to be in some way open to procreation, to having a baby. This translates mainly in two ways. One of them is that you can basically use any kind of contraception, no pills, no patches, no injections, no devices, and of course, no abortion or anything that involves killing babies. And the second one, the one in regards to communion and love, is that you shouldn't have sex outside of marriage. Anytime you're going to have sex, it should be with your wife. And when you do it, it has to be a big expression of love, of feeling close to her. Let's understand why it is like this, because for some people it may sound kind of harsh. Like, it is difficult to go with these two rules, but they actually have good reasons to exist. Let's start with the marriage. Anytime that you have sex with someone, even if you don't want to admit it, you're creating some kind of link and bond that is going to last for a while, probably years or maybe even a lifetime. You probably still remember the first person that you lost your virginity with. Even if it wasn't that good or you didn't love her, you still remember her. Actually, you probably still have some feelings for her in some way. And that is because sex is a very powerful way to attach humans. So if you have sex randomly with people that you know that you're not going to be for the rest of your life, or that intentionally you don't want to be with them, that's gonna cause a lot of internal problems in you and in the person. It's like you're giving little parts of your soul anytime that you're sleeping with someone, until the point where you feel kind of empty. And there's some people out there that's going to say like, I can do it and I have no problem. I don't have hard feelings when having sex or having casual sex. And they're just straight up lying. Men and women, anytime that they say that, it's just plain BS. I haven't seen one single person doing that is actually happy. They usually have big problems in their lives. And they say it's not related at all with the way that they have relationships, but I know it is. And there's a second problem. Let's say that you're not actually having casual sex. You're actually thinking about love anytime that you're having sex with a woman. If you're up to having sex before marriage and you can get involved with the girl and you guys spend time together, there's a big chance that the reason of why you guys are together is not necessarily because of this big commitment of love, but more because you guys just want to have sex. And then you fall in this cycle of that the fact that you guys have sex, it makes you want to be together and goes on and on. And this keeps creating this problem of creating that bond, that link with someone that you know is not going to stay there. That's why we add marriage now before having sex, because it creates that kind of extra friction to really think, okay, who's the woman that I'm going to spend the rest of my life with? So I can keep this sacred gift of sex only to her. And yeah, it may be difficult, but the reward is actually big. When you haven't had that much sex with random women, that part of you that is able to create that link and bond is more pure, like way more intense. And when you marry that woman that is a woman that you love, that you really care about, that you feel like genuine passion and attraction for her, that's why you chose her to be your wife. In the moment when you guys are gonna make love, it's going to be this big event, like this big passionate and exciting event anytime that it happens. And it's going to be like that for basically the rest of your life if you keep doing things right. It is going to be this expression of communion and love in comparison with any kind of quick fun that you may have before marriage. Alright, it's getting kind of late, so I'm gonna have to continue this after.
Many hours later.
Alright, that took a little bit more than expected, but we're back. However, just to finish that point, waiting until marriage for having sex puts a lot of intention in how it's going to be your sex life in that moment. It basically guarantees, or at least encourages you to guarantee that the person that you're gonna be with is someone that is also going to give you the best quality sex ever. Because the best sex with a woman happens when it's someone that truly deeply loves you. And of course with someone that you have a lot of sexual chemistry. That's something that you can notice without necessarily having sex. Having this rule, this practice, this doctrine makes you really think about it. And you may be thinking, why I'm saying something about that if I'm not even married yet? And the thing is that I ever experienced casual sex, and let me tell you that it's not that much of a thing. It's fun, yes, but that's it. Like, there's not that much into it. And in the other hand, I experienced sex with a woman that I had the intention to marry, with someone that I was projecting having kids and everything, and we were like actually planning when was it the right time to get married and all that. I really thought in my heart that she was going to be the person that I wanted to stay with. And even if we didn't wait until marriage, that for me that was a mistake, let me tell you that the sex was amazing. Imagine then if I could have done things in the right way. I'm pretty sure it was going to be 10 times better. And the second one is being open to procreation. This is one that a lot of people have problems with, and I understand that, right? I was feeling a little bit like uncomfortable with that as well at the beginning. However, as with everything that the church teaches, this has a reason. The first one is natural law. Natural law explains that there are some behaviors that just happen by nature that are very aligned with ourselves or with the environment, and that we shouldn't try to corrupt or interrupt natural law. The problem with everyone started to use contraception, especially in the times around the pill in the 60s, was that sex was not this important thing anymore. It was like way frictionless for it to happen, because at the beginning, if you were going to have sex with someone, it means that there was a big chance of you having a baby. So that means that the person that you were going to have sex with, you would have to really think about it if she was going to be the right woman for you. Or in the case of the woman, she needed to like really scrutinize if the guy that she was going to have sex with was actually worth it as a father. That's why most of the times they would marry first and then started to have sex. You see how these two work together? That's what I'm saying, it's not coincidence. In the moment that contraception became something massive with the pill and this was taken out of the equation, that's when relationships started to go way more crazy and not very good, unfortunately. Men and women started to be way more promiscuous and love and family orientation was just leave behind. And with this, the dynamic in the relationships ended up being way worse. Another thing about contraception is that sometimes it feels kind of lame using devices or condoms. I know a lot of people say that it's stupid if you don't want to use it, that it doesn't actually make that much of a difference, but from experience, it does. Maybe not that much in the sensation, but there's like something uncomfortable in there. There was a girl that I used to have sex with that we basically never used condoms, and that was kind of stupid from my part, but she would felt really uncomfortable with it, like really uncomfortable. And I actually know a lot of guys and girls that feel the same. They usually say something about that it feels weird, but I don't think it's necessarily something physical. I think that it's more of that thing that usually goes against natural law. When you interrupt that thing, there's like a mild sensation of like awkwardness in some parts of your body that you can't necessarily describe, but it's happening there. It's like when you're lying. You don't know necessarily where, but it feels weird. It feels wrong for some reason. Alright, while I was editing, I realized that I missed saying something, and that is, what if you don't want to have babies right now? It's like you're still open to life, but just don't want to do it right now for whatever reason, economic situation, your relationship, emotional, or like just feeling that it's not the right moment. Well, actually the church teaches that you can plan it out if you're not doing it from a position of selfishness, like if you're not being egotistical and you're always open to life. If that's the case, you can use what is called the billing method, that is basically just counting the days of when your woman is fertile. In a nutshell, you can have sex with your woman whenever you want, just don't do it when she's ovulating. Some practices like the coitus interruptus are not permitted at all. Always, if you're going to ejaculate, it has to be inside of the vagina of your woman. When I realized this, it was a little bit disappointing for me because there's some freaking stuff that I like to do, but I'm up to giving up. And looking on the bright side, cream pies are totally permitted. Actually, they are endorsed. So, it is absolutely fair. But I would say that the best way to plan out when you want to have babies with your wife is mastering your ejaculation. That means that you don't come, you don't ejaculate if you don't want to. You have total control over it. And actually, this is something that is seen as a virtue from the church because it's having control over your body. A big kind of control. If you're interested about learning how to control your ejaculation, elevate your sex potential, and becoming more of this healthy, masculine, and dominant lover, you can go and click the link in the description right now. With that clarified, let's continue. So that would be the second doctrine. These two doctrines work together. You can separate one from the other. That means that in order to have sex, make love, according to the official teachings of Christianity, you have to first be married and be open to procreation while you make love. Is it kinda harsh to follow this? It may be, but to be honest, it's something beautiful. It's like a big form of delayed gratification, and I think that it's actually totally worth it. I want you to imagine this for a moment. There's two versions of you. One that is just having sex like a normie. You know, some girls here and there, maybe some relationships, having some fun, maybe some casual sex from time to time. And one day you marry a woman because, it's time to settle down or whatever. And yeah, you kind of love her and everything, and sex is okay, but it's not that much of a deal. Actually, sometimes you even remember girls from your past because they used to be a little bit more sexy. They used to move better. They used to do things that you can't do with your wife anymore. Because of this, with time, the sexual attraction just goes down and you guys stop having sex as much as before because it's normal in a marriage. And that's it. That's how most people live their lives. Now, there's a next version of you that is way more in this spiritual, loving, and passionate sex. Someone that is actually doing the things right in order to love her partner. You have chose a woman that you know that you're gonna attach your soul with, that is super compatible with you, that you're deeply in love with her, and that you feel that vibrant sexual attraction. And the best part is that she feels the same for you. She probably had sex with only like one or two guys before, or best case scenario with no man, and she's not that experienced in sex. The same probably happens with you. So in the moment that you guys are going to make love, it's like this new, exciting, and vibrant and passionate experience where there's a lot of things to discover, explore, and improve. With time, the attraction, instead of decreasing, just get better and better because you have been picking up the things that she likes, and she does the same as well. As you're a good lover, you just keep improving and improving over time. And she noticed this. That's why every time you guys are going to make love, she is still excited like the first day. And anytime that you guys have sex, you know that it's from that bonding and meaningful perspective. You both know that it's an act of communion and love. Those two versions are super different, and it's up to you to choose which one you want to be. I know for sure which one I'm going to. Just to finish up things, I want to tell you that I feel real passion in teaching men to do this, to have more meaningful and deep relationships full of love and passion that are more aligned with their spirit, their soul, and with God. Because in the moment that I start to do the same, and that I start to go more in my masculine frame, in my dominant aspect, instead of all these BS liberal views, from all this secular propaganda they try to like brainwash you, I started to feel genuinely happy. It was like I recovered my ambition and my excitement for life again. And I really want you to experience the same thing. So I encourage you to follow what is the actual path, the real path, to follow Christ and his teachings. If the advice that you have seen here has been helpful to you, I encourage you to go and click the link in the description right now. There you're gonna see my main program, that is where I go in depth on how to unlock your true masculine sexual energy to become a sexually dominant lover in order to become the object of the desire of your wife, of your care. If you're experiencing also things like premature ejaculation or performance anxiety, that's also something that we can work together on getting rid of that as soon as possible. So go and click it right now. But besides that, man, I really hope all this has helped you, and I'll see you later.